Welcome to another edition of I Am Thomas. I am at the Calvary Cemetery in Woodside, New York, visiting, paying my respects to Annie Moore. Now, if you watch this channel, if you watch other channels similar to it, or even just myself as a content creator, based on what my channel has, the content on it, I've always been interested in the who, the what, the where, and the why. And that's exactly has to do with Annie Moore. She was the first person that was processed, the first person to pass through Ellis Island. I'm very interested about her story and I want to share it with you. And this is a picture, obviously, of Ellis Island from when it opened up. So, a little bit about Ellis Island from 1892 to 1924. Ellis Island was America's largest and most active immigration station. Now, check this out, there were over 12 million immigrants that were processed through Ellis Island, and this is just until 1924. On average, the inspection process took about around 3 to 7 hours. Another fact, 350 babies were born from 1900 to 1954, and there were over 3,500 people that died on Ellis Island during this time. In Ellis Island, they had a spot that was called the Kissing Spot. And this was the place where immigrants were reunited with their family. This place was on the first floor of Ellis Island. And the kissing post, it's where all the families, they kissed each other and hugged each other after, the immigrants were relieved. Here is their family, the land of opportunity, traveling from Europe or wherever a place, country they're coming from, into the United States to provide a better living for themselves and for their family and for their kids. And this is obviously just some pictures of the immigrants waiting online for Ellis Island, as you just seen. Now, as just an overall general kind of based on information provided from all these years at Ellis Island, the most dreaded thing for immigrants on Ellis Island was probably a disease called trachoma. And that's a kind of a contagious eye infection that could lead to blindness and death. That's a lot of what the immigrants faced when coming over. Once registered, the immigrants were free to enter the new world and start their new lives. But if they were deemed sick, they would spend days, weeks, months, even on Ellis Island in rooms. Now, just bouncing off of that, you often heard about chalk marks on Ellis Island. So what that means is if a doctor found any indication of disease, he marked the immigrant's clothing, and there is a picture of Annie Moore. Again, the first person to pass through Ellis Island. So now, if the doctor found any indication of the disease, he marked the immigrant's clothing with chalk. L stand for lameness, E for eyes, H for heart, CT for trachoma, PG for pregnant, X for mental illness, etc., etc. So immigrants marked with a chalk letter during the line inspection were at that point led to, examination rooms. So now briefly about Annie Moore. She was born in 1874 in Ireland. And she was the first immigrant, again, to the United States to pass through the federal immigration inspection at Ellis Island. There are various statues of Annie. You have statues of Annie created by an Irish sculptor, and they're located in Ellis Island and also in Ireland to commemorate this huge event. So Annie arrived from County Cork Island. She came aboard the steamship Nevada in 1892. Now, her brothers Anthony and Philip, who accompanied her in this journey, had just turned 15 and 12, respectively. As the first person to pass inspection at Ellis Island, she was presented with an American $10 gold piece from an American official. And there you see the grave of Annie Moore. And this is the statue in Ireland of Annie Moore and her two siblings. Now, Annie's parents, Matthew and Julia, they had already come to the United States in 1888, and they had lived. Actually, the house number was 32 Monroe Street. That is in Manhattan. Now, just to kind of give you a background of Annie here, not much is known, but enough is known to kind of tell her story. Didn't have a long life. She married a son of a German Catholic immigrants, Joseph Augustus Sayer. And he was like a salesman at the Manhattan Fulton Fish Market. And it said that with this man, Annie had about 11 children. I believe with the 11 children, 5 had survived to adulthood, and 3 of them had children. The rest all died before the age of 3. Jeez. Which apparently, was common, from what I understand, during that time, where children die young. It was fairly common. But Annie herself, she did get married, had about 11 children, like we mentioned. But she died young. She died of heart failure in 1924, just at the age of 50. Her husband lived until 1960, and he was about 85, 86 years old, and they see the grave again of Annie Moore. She had an unmarked grave here, and as of in 2008, a kind of a dedication ceremony was held at the cemetery, and a new marker was given for her, as you could see, which is that we'll zoom into it again, which is a Celtic cross made of Irish blue limestones. Annie's life inspired the song Isle of Hope, if you're familiar with it, and Isle of Tears. It was written by an individual named Brendan Graham after visiting Ellis Island. That song has been performed by various artists, Dolores Keane, Daniel O'Donnell, Celtic Thunder, Tommy Fleming and the High Kings. It's there's an award named after her, the Annie Moore Award. So it's she's been in history. At one point, they thought that there was a kind of a confusion with someone else that named Annie Moore, who's in Fort Worth, Texas, who had died apparently in 1924. There was a confusion of who was the real Annie Moore, but it came out that person was born in Illinois, and it was not the real Annie Moore in regards to Ellis Island. This is the real Annie Moore in regards to Ellis Island. So, just thought I'd pay my respects. Lived a very common life from all indications, but I'm sure she was very grateful for all her opportunity here in the United States.